So we invested a lot into developer experience. We are the fastest in the world to integrate with, which is on average 2 weeks. And
wow.
Yeah, calling that out, it actually doesn't always help me because they think, I'm just, fooling around, and it's not actually 2
weeks. It's too good to be true.
Exactly, yeah. So what we do is essentially we just bring our customers earlier on and let them explain. And then once their engineers see our API docs, they're like, okay, we got to sign these guys. Like they're amazing.
Hello and welcome to 11FS Fintech Insider Spotlight. I'm David Barton-Grimley, Fintech Strategy Director at 11FS. And in this show, we shine a spotlight on the best and the brightest in the tech and financial services industry to get to know them, their businesses, and what they think the future of the industry will look like. So on today's Spotlight, I'm delighted to be joined by Baran Ozkan, co-founder and CEO of Flagright, a company that's rethinking risk management and AML compliance from the ground up using AI-native technology. How are you doing today, Baran?
Doing great, David. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. It's a pleasure. Financial crime is a bigger burden on society than ever before. Transnational illicit activities from romance scams to human trafficking generated over $3 trillion in 2023 alone. Meanwhile, banks themselves lost a staggering $442 billion to payment, check, and credit card fraud last year. With criminals moving faster than ever, compliance teams are struggling to keep up. This is where Flagright comes in. So, Baran, what were some of the existing AML issues that you saw that motivated you to start up?
So maybe I will start from, why we exist in the first place, why, there's yet another AML compliance and risk management company. So I used to be on the buyer side, and I evaluated all the usual suspects in the market for 2 years. And I'm quite methodical in how I do things. So I had this, huge spreadsheet. I actually also used 11FS Pulse at the time
Amazing.
to kind of, learn about, some of the other providers. And after, that 2-year period, I established that more than half overpromise. And when you start testing them, they cannot deliver what they promised. And they're like, oops, I guess we had a miscommunication. And some of them are just not good products. And there are only a few, but they are not appealing to fintechs. They only appeal to banks. So I found that the mid-market, maybe less than Series D, fintech market was underserved. And out of that frustration, I paired up with a very good engineer friend of mine, and it eventually became a company. Essentially, we tried to bridge the gap where others are ignoring.
And what would you say that is when you looked at all of the other competitors there after customers work with you for a period of time? What is the thing that they grow to love about you and the service you provide?
Yeah, so since we began 3 years back, the top feedback we have gotten is this is the most intuitive platform I've ever seen. And once they become our customers and sign, the top feedback turns into this is the best customer support I've ever seen. So just drilling down into what they say, it is the reason behind that is I think our competitors in general, that's also been my experience when I was trying to buy from them, they just see it as a back office tool of just a bunch of operations people clicking buttons from 9 to 6 every day. But I think they ignore the fact that they ignore how much value these people bring to the society, how they are the first line of defense against terrorism financing, human trafficking, money laundering, fraud, etc. If they cannot catch it, it might just trickle down the society. And if you don't catch them, those numbers come up that you mentioned in your intro.
Yeah.
So I guess we just care about our customers a lot more, and we see the human behind those operations, humans behind those operations. So we actually try to help them, right? Save them the silly clicks every day. When you click something, it actually delivers on the promise that the software should. And it's not rocket science, right? I'm not saying we are curing cancer or we are going to Mars, but I think there is a way of contributing to society in our humble, baby step way at a time. And that's what we try to, excel at.
That's amazing. And I guess switching AML software providers is a big thing for some customers, right? Because of all of the risks associated with it, as you say. What are some of the biggest concerns that you hear from customers in wanting to switch?
Yeah. So just 2 things come to mind. One of them is engineering. Obviously, also based on my experience, compliance people usually have to go chase engineering resources, right? Engineers, they are very limited. So they're always scared of, how long it's going to take to, change, and is it even going to be worth it? Am I just getting a, incremental improvement, or is this going to be a drastic one? Is it even worth the headache, etc.? That's one. And the second one, which is also correlated, how long will this integration take, and will it even actually work? Because once you sign them, that's also one of the pain points. These providers do usually lock you in for 3, 5, 6 years, etc., and you cannot really get rid of them. So if the integration takes 1 year, now you lost 20% of your contract value anyways. So that's also something that really worked out for us. So we invested a lot into developer experience. We are the fastest in the world to integrate with, which is on average 2 weeks. And
wow,
yeah, calling that out, it actually doesn't always help me, because they think I'm just fooling around, and it's not actually 2
it's
weeks.
too good to be true.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we do is essentially we just bring our customers earlier on and let them explain. And then once their engineers see our API docs, they're like, okay, we got to sign these guys. Like they're amazing. And they just get it, why it could be 2 weeks. So those two things are essentially, top two reasons.
That's awesome. And you mentioned at the beginning, learning some lessons from some of the other providers out there. I mean, what lessons have you learned in terms of the pace and scale? Like sometimes fintechs can grow almost too fast and then maybe not match up to the promises that they make to the customers. How have you managed to do that kind of incremental development in a way that keeps your products stable and resilient?
Yeah, that's a very loaded question to me. So I'll try to, break it down. So my background is in engineering, and I've been a product manager in financial crime technology. So I think I have that, bridge between product development and compliance and fraud prevention. And maybe we've been fortunate in bringing those together. When I look at our competitors, almost all of them ended up focusing on a single jurisdiction, geography, and a single use case. For example, AML screening, or real-time fraud prevention, or batch processing AML. And when we looked at it, for us, we are just trying to prevent suspicious activity. So our platform looks at a security, crypto, stocks, money, fiat, ATM, cash withdrawal, whatever. It's always moving from A to B. A is an actor, B is an actor. It might be from an ATM machine to your pocket, or from my credit card to Amazon, doesn't matter. It's always moving. So we looked at common denominators, always be able to handle aggregate data, millions of data points. So, and then always be in real time. So for example, be able to support peer-to-peer, crypto transactions, FedNow, et cetera, across the globe. So what that meant was, for us, we were able to expand to 30 plus countries now in 6 continents in terms of customer presence. And not a single Flagright customer has gotten a fine or even a warning for any type of violation. So our product works really well across all payment methods, across all jurisdictions. It's quite versatile. And the way we achieved that was because of that abstraction. And now on the product side, I think this again goes back to caring about humans behind the scene, actually, doing the actual work. We listen to our customers. In the last 3 years, majority of our platform has been built on top of customer feedback.
Oh, brilliant.
We don't just assume that, they want this mug to be white color and we just, roll it out. We ask a bunch of people, and maybe we find out they actually look for this shade of white rather than another shade. And all of those kind of trickle down, because if you think about compliance world, it's a very small world in every single city, right? People talk to each other. And for example, one of our customers bought us 3 times. So we actually have a lot of love towards the product and towards ourselves as Flagright employees. People really like to work with us.
That's where your background in product really comes through and shines. You've started to go into elements of your product, and I suppose it's worth talking about AI, right? It's a big buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. There's AI on the fraud side, those people who are scamming, but also AI on the anti-AML side as well. How are you deploying AI? And what have you seen works and kind of doesn't work?
Yeah. When we say AI, so we split it into 2. When we say AI, we refer to generative AI and machine learning.
Yep.
So, historically speaking, when most people speak about AI, it's usually a primitive machine learning regression algorithm, and they just roll it out to check a box. So we try to be, a little more truthful in what that word AI means, and actually support with proper functional product that is working towards that, and not just a simple algorithm. So diving deeper into the generative AI side, we very much focus on individual use cases. These might be, in a compliance team, you obviously have L1, L2, L3 teams. So we break it apart for individual use cases for each team. This might be, for example, AML screening, false positive suppression, supporting monitoring investigations, which might be very complex. but while doing that, always keeping humans in the loop. So we know, some companies are very passionate about, very religious about using AI only and eliminating humans. We think that's the wrong approach because humans are still very good in complex decisioning and, judgment, that gut feeling, right? You cannot really outsource that to a machine. And most importantly, if you go submit something, I don't know, to the NCA or to FinCEN, and you say, okay, why did you report David? You cannot say, oops, machine told me so.
Yeah.
You need to actually justify the decisioning behind. So we always want to use AI as a machine that supports humans, where humans provide supervision.
You're enabling people to do their jobs in a more productive way, right? Rather than swapping that out.
Yes.
And do you see a point, in the next 5, 10 years, or maybe even less, 2 years, where actually Gen AI or AI or ML gets better, where the human maybe gets extracted from it, or do you not see that future?
We do. So the future that I imagine is, imagine a bank employs 5,000 people. We want to employ humans to a function of AI oversight, where you don't need to have as many humans to manage these tedious tasks. For example, moving this mug from here to here, maybe AI can do it. But there might be other tasks where, more oversight is required. So you want to push humans to a more complex decisioning mechanism and then leverage AI for individual use cases. So I wouldn't say humans can be eliminated. I don't think they should be eliminated. They should still be kept in the loop for oversight. But I think there's a lot of efficiency that we can gain as human civilization by outsourcing those to AI. And I also want to touch on, well, what about all the jobs?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I like to think of it as, imagine the shift from horse carts to cars. I mean, obviously, I'm sure a lot of people complain about, horseshoe makers going out of jobs.
Yep.
Well, we just got mechanics.
That's right.
Right? So moving forward as human civilization doesn't mean we are going to be hurt. We are moving forward. And just the nature of the jobs will be changed. And we will upskill ourselves. We will learn new skills. Our life standard will increase. So it is a net positive.
Yeah, retraining is so important, right? Being able to utilize these tools in our day-to-day jobs. So this is something certainly that I see in my job and what I do. Let's talk a little bit about you guys as well. So you've just completed a new fundraise. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that go?
Yeah, we did that in 2024, in Q4. We grew 3x year on year. We had very good growth rate, great cash flow, very good customers, moved upwards in terms of the company sizes that we serve. We went into enterprise. So, and we are still very early as a company, right? We're just 3 years old. So that was our seed stage.
Wow.
And we are now leveraging those funds to do a US expansion and double down on our core markets, which is, UK, Europe, and in the APAC region, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Malaysia. So we are just doubling down in those regions specifically.
Amazing. You touched on the international nature of your business. I think you are personally based in Singapore. You have an office here in the UK.
Yes.
How does the industry vary from region to region? Are there kind of different needs? Obviously, the regulation is very different, but what would you say are the big differences between each region?
Yeah, I guess, we can break that into regulatory expectations, but also maybe the culture and mindset of compliance professionals. So I feel that in, for example, North America or UK, it's a lot more like 1 + 1 = 2, right? Like a lot more logical. Okay, I want this. Can your tool do it? I test it, I buy it. It's like very straightforward. Versus in other regions, it's a lot more relationship driven, trust based. Okay, can I actually trust this person? Are they committed to this region? And there are very good reasons for it. For example, historically, there might be a bunch of companies who went from UK to Singapore and then left after 5 years.
Yes.
And now you have to deal with that change, change your infrastructure, etc. So we are also trying to be mindful of, those differences while we serve our customers. And that's why we also are very big on hiring local talent who understand, and are experienced in the region itself.
So as we were discussing, you're currently based in Singapore, but you founded the company elsewhere. How do you think about that move? Like what made you move to Singapore?
Yeah. So we started the company with my co-founder Madhu in Germany.
Wow.
And I also used to live in Lithuania, where I worked for that fintech, where I was on the buyer side for an AML tool. And after we started the company, around 1.5, 2 years in, we started getting a lot of traction from Australia, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, etc. So we were like, okay, it sounds like there's something interesting there. Let's see, what's happening. And we found out the market is grossly underserved. There are a bunch of companies ignoring the market, but there's a lot of demand. And obviously, with the political climate changing, these majority of these companies are still subject to, for example, OFAC sanction, etc. So they still have to comply with those, and then transaction monitoring comes into play, risk scoring, etc. The markets are growing very fast, and also underbanked populations are decreasing very fast. So there are a bunch of fintechs, rolling out, which means in line with that, regulators also have to mature up very fast with a bunch of new regulations. So it's essentially just a trickle down effect, across multiple tenants. And it felt like a good opportunity, to grow the business and, serve the clients in that region. So that's why I made the move alongside, a few personal reasons. So essentially now my co-founder based in San Francisco, our majority of management team based in London, and I am in Singapore. That's also how we are able to maintain great customer support across the world, and also support our sales operations.
That's amazing. You're fully internationally distributed business. You mentioned San Francisco there, and also your origins with Y Combinator. I mean, that's such an amazing accelerator. What was your experience like with them? How did you get in?
So we applied. We actually didn't have much hopes. We were like, yeah, let's apply and see what happens.
So cool.
And we had very good unit velocity in terms of how we grew. So we had the prototype within a month. We had a pilot customer, a very large PSP within another month. So from YC's perspective, we just had great velocity. Then we got the interview, and we got in for winter 22 batch. And in terms of my experience, so the way I like to think about it, even if I didn't need any money as a founder and I started yet another company, I would still go give 7% to YC just to give back to the community, because we have seen so much support from the network, from the partners. It's been, we are very grateful. And I always look for ways to, return the favor to the community. If there is a YC founder, to be founder, who is applying, I'm happy to always, look through the applications, make some suggestions, how they can think about it, etc. And obviously always help a fellow YC founder as well.
It's a whole community ecosystem around it. I love that. All right. So what would you say is one compliance challenge that keeps your customers up at night? I'm sure there's probably many, but what is the thing that banks keep coming back to in AML?
Yeah, another very loaded question for me.
Well, what are the many things that you kind of see, coming up?
Maybe I can touch on latest trends. I guess, like there are two main ones, and one of them we have really no control over. It's, due to political climate globally.
Yeah.
And, tensions between different nations and, wars, etc.
Which is more and more now these days.
Exactly. Yeah. And that also impacts, regulation and sanctions, etc. And then banks have to be on their toes as to, okay, is there a new person? Is my data high quality enough? Are my systems running reliably for me to be able to catch it? And so that, they are not an instrument for a potential sanctions evasion, etc. That's one. And the second one is everyone wants to get on board on generative AI train.
Yeah, sure.
But they are also very cautious in terms of data privacy, hallucinations, consistency. Is it working reliably enough? Is there a mistake? Are we going to get into trouble? And they're also trying to navigate those waters. So those two, I would say, the main ones.
That's very interesting. Are you seeing more and more financial institutions deploying Gen AI in front of customers, or at least wanting to? Are they coming to you saying, hey, we're going to start testing this thing with customers? We might be seeing some stuff come back?
Yeah, I mean, it's on many fronts. So it can be, customer support, the product itself, or in our case, back office, driving efficiency for operational teams. And for all of those, they are very concerned around, data privacy, consistency, customer experience, be that end customer or their internal users.
Yeah.
So there are a variety of, challenges they are dealing with.
Yeah, it's all coming up. So keeping on the AI thread, right? Because it's very buzzy. Everybody's talking about it right now. The kind of latest wave of businesses coming on down the line, including yours, I think, are AI native. So your entire business is architected around the idea of generative AI and machine learning and everything like that. What would you say is the biggest difference in maybe your approach to engineering and the way you build product? Because I guess there's an entire industry of both fintechs and also financial institutions who are thinking about refactoring almost their products to include this, which is a great benefit for you because you don't have that technical debt, you don't have that legacy, right?
Yes, exactly. So I guess that will also explain why our customers are buying a late comer into the market, right? Like, why is there yet another transaction monitoring tool, another, AML compliance platform on the market, yet people are buying it?
Right.
And I think that explains it, because when you look at our genesis 3 years back in 2021, now 3.5, and then LLMs came along right around when we were 1 year old.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So it was a brand new technology. Everyone is, trying to adopt it, but we have no legacy. We don't have any legacy architecture. We don't have a lot of code base. We are still, building it up. So at that time, it was a great opportunity for us to double down on this future that we want to bet on, that it's going to be AI first with human oversight. Whereas our competitors, they already had 5, 6, 10 years old architectures, right? And for them, they had to go through millions of lines of code and try to change it, where they have 100 customers, relying. So from that perspective, either they are going to hurt their customers, right, and risk their existing architecture, or they're just going to stack it on top like a, wobbly Jenga. So obviously, we are in a much more advantageous position to drive that architecture reliably and scale it globally. And that's also why we've been very fortunate. So that's why we were able to put AI at the core of the platform. And we are building all the mechanical capabilities, such as transaction monitoring, risk scoring, et cetera, on top. And that's why it scales very elegantly.
Brilliant. When did the ball drop for you? As you said, sort of 2022 is when Gen AI first really kind of came in and people got very, very excited about it. But there was a lot of negativity about it. It hallucinated. The models were not great. What was the point for you as a founder where it sort of clicked and you were like, actually, wait a minute, this is here to stay and it's coming faster than everyone expected?
Yeah. As you might know, we are a Y Combinator company.
Yep.
So OpenAI is a YC company as well. So just like any other YC company, OpenAI opened their public LLM APIs to YC companies first,
right,
before the public release.
You got the inside track.
Yes. So we had the opportunity to experiment with it quite a bit. Experience all the hallucinations, inconsistencies. Figure out that it cannot do math.
Yeah.
So because of those, we actually had to build our internal infrastructure, AI infrastructure, to do all of those, and then prevent LLMs from touching those sensitive areas of the use cases. For example, if you say, I want to file an NCA SAR, suspicious activity report, for £10,000, and then LLM would say maybe £100. Like, you cannot make that mistake. Right? And what's the point of using AI if the human has to correct it?
Yeah.
Right? We are just talking about oversight. We are not talking about babysitting AI. So it has to be very reliable and enable humans, not vice versa. So from that perspective, we actually now build a full-blown architecture. 90% of the AI infrastructure is proprietary to Flagright, and top 10%, we just humanize it using LLMs, just plugging in with placeholders. For example, name field David would be protected in our proprietary infrastructure. That's why we are also data privacy compliant with GDPR, et cetera. That's why we can roll it out globally. And LLMs don't even see the name David. And we just use it just to humanize, what the narrative would look like, for example. So there are a lot of different ways, people can experiment with LLMs, but it's very important that you don't rely on them as a sole function of, like, it's not a silver bullet to save your company to become AI native. You cannot just patch it on.
You're deploying it for very specific use cases that you can then scale over time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's constant, right? And speaking of constant, fraudsters, they don't play by the rules. They also have access to the same kind of tech.
Yes.
And in some senses, of course, they're much further ahead, right? Because they can just deploy this and experiment and figure out how to make money.
Yes.
How do you stay on top of that constantly changing landscape?
I guess for us, we are quite fortunate in that we get a lot of different typologies globally across the world from different jurisdictions, and we are able to trickle that down very quickly to our customers everywhere else. So we are also quite consultative in that we support our customers on a daily basis in terms of how they use the platform, how else they could leverage the capabilities, because we are a technology company. And obviously, we don't, for example, have access to these global databases or national databases or financial crime like Interpol, NCA, et cetera.
Right.
So we are still blocked off, and all we can do is understand if there's a new pattern emerging, and kind of very quickly support our customers to have measures, countermeasures against those.
Very cool. Okay, everybody, it's coming to the end of the show. Thanks to Baran for joining me. Where can people find out more about you and everything you're getting up to?
I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so you can follow our page, Flagright, on LinkedIn, and I'm also there, so feel free to connect me.
Awesome. Right, that's all we have time for this week. Make sure you follow 11FS on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok to stay up to date with all the cool stuff we're doing. And if you enjoy our show, do subscribe to the 11FS YouTube channel, where you can also catch up on previous episodes. Have a great week, everyone, and goodbye.